welcome to the Clifton Worley Show. This week we have a special guest with us, Chad Jennings from Jennings Guitars, and really excited about have you on, Chad. Now, just to preface this, I actually got to play one of your guitars out at Co Schneider, his mutual friend. He had your guitars out at One Day Show in Tracy, California earlier this year, and I got to try a couple of your models, and we might talk about that here in a minute. But anyways,
Awesome.
how's it going, Chad?
It's going good. Just kind of wrapping up my day as far as work goes, and yeah, I don't know. It's fun to cut wood every day. You can't beat it. It definitely has its ups and downs. Of trying to. I think the hardest part is trying to make sales, but guitar making is so much fun. It's I don't know. It's a gnarly love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
We'll just kind of leave it there.
Well, I was listening to, you've been on a couple of the other gear podcasts, I think, Guitar Knobs, and just most recently you were on the Tone Mob, and I was enjoying getting to listen to your story on both of those podcasts. And from what I understand is it kind of all started when you were a teenager, right?
Yeah. 14, started picking up guitar. Maybe I was 13 even, but middle school, friends were playing like Nirvana songs, and I was like, shoot, I want to start playing. That looks cool. That looks fun. It's my Yamaha electric that I started picking up and playing, and just mainly self-taught. I took lessons, but it didn't really go anywhere for me. I'm better, I guess, being self-taught in a lot of cases. But yeah, after that, come 8th grade, I had a science fair project to build something or explain a process, and I told my dad I wanted to build an electric guitar, and he was like, all right. At that time, I had pretty much no woodworking experience other than building a Pinewood Derby car. But yeah, we just kind of went for it, bought books, read up as much as I could, which was kind of far-fetched for me, being, I guess, like an independent outdoor creative kid. Reading wasn't something I lent myself to very naturally, but my parents saw me reading books, and I was pretty serious about it. So yeah, we got my grandfather's old shopsmith working. It's like a multi-tool. There's like a bandsaw, it can convert to a table saw, a drill press, and we got that working, and I did a lot of the work on the bandsaw. And then yeah, I built a Gibson SG that was 1 3/4 inches thick, and somehow I got the neck to tilt back and the headstock to tilt back. I don't know, it's probably at like a 7-degree angle or something random. It's definitely not the full standard Gibson neck angle, but it somehow worked, and I was hooked and excited. And just as any nerd would, you just kind of dive into each aspect of a guitar and why it does what it does and what caused it to sound different. And yeah, it's been awesome.
Well,
just yeah.
So tell me, you're still a fairly young guy. I think you're still in your 20s, right?
I am 27.
27.
Yeah.
And so you've been at this a while, but yet still young. And kind of what was the point where you decided, hey, I'm gonna do this, like, full thing. This is gonna be my career.
Oh man, I would say after I built my first guitar, I said, Dad, I want to do this, and he kind of looked at me as like, I don't know if guitar makers make a whole lot of money. And sure enough, as statistics say, it's like luthiers or stringed instrument makers, I think at the time we were saying make like $40,000 a year, and by California standards,
yeah,
even $50,000-$60,000 a year could hardly afford you a 1-bedroom apartment, which is crazy. But yeah, so out of high school, still loved it, still building guitars, helping people with repair and stuff like that. I started taking fire technology classes because my dad and I were like, oh, well, as a firefighter in your days off, you could build on the side, but you'd be a firefighter and do that. And so yeah, I pursued that for a few years. I did like a wildland forestry fire camp, and we did a little control burn fire, which was awesome. But was definitely a turning point when I realized I was looking up guitars during the lectures more than I was, honing in on my soon-to-be career path that I bailed on. So we decided to switch directions, and I was like, well, I'll go to school for engineering, at least get a drafting and technical background, and then use that for guitar somehow. And then I started getting into calculus, and I just really struggled and realized it wasn't a place for me. So I found a few luthier schools and said, hey, Dad, here's the one I want to go to in Michigan. And I went there and kind of just started the business after that and just been pushing full force.
Yeah. Well, tell me about going to that luthier school. What was that like?
Interesting. I don't know. It was really good. I think emotionally for me, I was just in a weird spot of being young 20s, kind of know what you want to do, and then you move somewhere. I feel like everyone experiences this when you go to college or whatnot, but I had the experience later, and I don't know, definitely isolated myself a bit, which was good because I could work on guitars, but I'd say I definitely kind of sacrificed relationships and friendships while I was there, just trying to build stuff in my free time. But Gallup took me. Man, I don't even know where I want to go with this. We came in first day of class. We started building like almost a kit guitar from guitars parts that they had CNC'd out there, and got to do finish and assembly on it. And then we got to do an acoustic after that, and then from scratch, which was awesome. That's what I truly love, is doing acoustics. And it was hard for me to go to that school because I had a lot of experience, and the course itself was geared toward people who didn't have any experience, which makes sense because the class was like 20 plus students, so they had to kind of bring everyone on the same page and then move forwards. So I felt like it was a little slow for me moving at first, but I took that time and energy and really focused on training my eye to, I don't know, proceed with greater quality. And it's guitar building and any kind of craft. It's all in your eye. It's also in your hand, but you have to be able to see what you're working towards and working through. And in guitar building, you got to be able to see if the neck's straight. You got to see if the sanding scratches or where you need to kind of touch up. And same thing with finish. So I definitely took a lot of time training my eye through all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, like, when it comes to building, there's a certain degree of, and I know not all the luthiers are like this, but being able to play these things up and down the neck so you know kind of where you're targeting. I'm building this for this type of player. I mean, does that ever cross your mind?
Oh, all the time. And it's a constant relationship between the neck profile and obviously the action and the frets. And you always want to optimize what you can. And I think one of the most comfortable necks I had noticed, I'm like 5'7", and I've got a medium to like medium large-ish hand. So I'm somewhat average in everything that I play, so I seem to fit everything. And but some of the most comfortable necks I've found are, I don't know if I'd call them D shapes, but they're almost soft V shapes that are very round in the back, and allows you to get through, but it allows you to still do the thumb wrap really comfortably. And even with a thicker neck of that kind of very soft V kind of C profile, you can do a thick neck and it's very comfortable, but the shoulders allow you to reach in because it's carved away so much on the side profiles of the back of the neck. And I've done different things, like actually make the neck get thinner as you go towards the 14th fret, because when you're playing at, like, I don't know, first 5 frets, you're doing bar chords mainly. You want something chunky that fits in your hand and kind of just does a good thumb wrap type thing. But once you get lower, you want to be able to hit the frets quickly. You don't want to fight very hard. And so sometimes doing a thinner profile, just a touch thinner towards the 12th and 14th fret, makes a difference. And I don't know. I've definitely asked clients. We can't do this anymore because of the way the shop's set up, but I've built a very good and comfortable neck profile that works for like 95% of people. But I used to ask clients when I would shape them all by hand. I'm like, hey, what size hand are you? Or like, where how are you planning on playing? And then I would actually shape the neck for that. So people still custom order neck shapes from us, and I really love doing that because I get to display my artistry of like developing something that I've trained my hand and
Yeah,
ear and
yeah,
touch to dial in, but now I get to couple it with what a client wants, and it's always positive feedback, which is it's really exciting as a builder and very rewarding
yeah.
to do that.
Well, I kind of want to go. I want to ask, when you've set up your shop where you've got these three models going, and we'll talk about those three models here and the differences between them here in a minute. But deciding on, okay, this is what I'm going to do versus trying to be all things to all people. Have you faced that struggle, and kind of how did you deal with that?
Um, I think it's something you address almost as at a daily basis of kind of
Hmm.
building the instruments. Like the designs are the same models, but the aesthetics are always evolving. The wood choices are evolving. I feel like in the last several months we finally fine-tuned the whole shop and the models to be exactly what we want. Um, we've done like little things like move the stop tailpiece forwards like I don't know 3/8 of an inch and backwards a half an inch to where it's sitting currently on our tunematic stop tailpiece guitars, and I seem to like it. The break angle works really well, and you carry into aesthetics into that as well. It's got to visually look good and balanced. May not be common to like the Gibson spacing. We're a little bit longer, but it definitely looks good. And like I said, the break angle is good, so the jump there too. But yeah, I when I sat out to design the guitars, or when we sat out to design the guitars, it was I wanted guitars that were familiar but different. Classic, but still fresh and new. I hate using the word modern, but it almost has a modern direction to them. But yeah, and then everything's always changing. Every guitar we build is different. Different pickups, different bridge. They may be close to the same, but
Yeah.
almost every single time there's a different variation. Like one could be the tunematic stop, and then the other one's tunematic and through body, and stuff like that. So
Well, I remember at the one day event, um, I spent a good amount of time playing, and you told me it was the Catalina.
yeah,
Yeah, and I absolutely loved playing that guitar. It was different than the rest of the guitars there. Although there's Co's got a great lineup of different guitars that he had
oh
brings with him
yeah,
on the road. But I really enjoyed playing that, and I noticed a lot of guys were picking that one up because it kind of spoke to them.
yeah,
But what I this was crazy, but Co was like, "Well, why do you like that guitar?" And I was like, "Well, it's one of the most like classic looking guitars here,
hmm.
and as like I'm a mainly a telly player, and it reminds
Yeah,
me, it kind of puts me in that direction, and it's like that's and I don't know why because it doesn't look a thing like a telly,
yeah.
but it resonated like to a telly player, I think, on that level. And so
Interesting.
I mean, have you heard that before?
I definitely a lot of guys pick them up and they say it's so hard because everyone can say the same words but mean different things. But everyone's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they play great, they sound good, and I think the best guitar you can build or design is the guitar that gets out of the way. So you're not feeling the edge necessarily on the body against your arm, or you don't notice that you're touching the fret ends because they're so round, or you know one thing that helps the tones come out of the guitar really well is really well buffed out frets, and I think a lot of people overlook that. And like I said, when it becomes you and the music and less like you and the guitar itself, that's when you've built a great guitar. And a lot of people have said like, yeah, just the guitar doesn't get in the way, or it's so consistent, and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Obviously, and I've heard other guitar builders talk about this, but you know, it's always kind of like somebody playing music or writing music. There's always somebody
Yeah.
that's inspiring you, and you're maybe even borrowing a little bit from. Are there guys you look up to that give you inspiration as a builder?
Hmm. That's a great question. I would say because the guitar, at least the way that we have designed it and built it, there's a lot of wiggle room for things to change and evolve, but there's also not at the same time. I like mentioned this in a different podcast, and you probably heard this, but like sometimes there's a designed box like that people expect the guitars to look and feel in a certain space and visually take up a certain amount of space, and so you gotta. My goal was to do that, and then yeah, it's I don't know. There's so much to it. I definitely have pulled from color schemes of other builders. I've always looked at Cower and just like his designs are so I don't know. I like a lot of what he does. It's very brilliant. It's not me necessarily or what I would do, but like model that I look up to that he's designed is the Super Chief. It's such a cool guitar.
Yeah.
It's big. It's got a lot of body. It's a flat top, which is so unusual for a guitar that's like the size of an ES335. Yeah, so Doug does incredible stuff. Veritas, I've looked up to them. I've spoken with Casey several times, and he's encouraged me to do try different things, like different finishes and stuff like that, and even kind of go more of a satin direction. So,
Well, let's talk about finishes here for a minute.
yeah.
One of the things I've noticed on the guitar that I played, I think maybe both models. I think one was like kind of a reddish one, and maybe one was like a pinkish. I can't remember uh,
Okay.
the exact color of, but I remember there's one in my mind. It's kind of like it had a reddish, but it had that dog hair
Yeah.
look to it. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is that dog hair finish like where was that idea? Like, was it something somebody else was doing that intrigued you and you want to incorporate it into your work, or like what? How'd you
We
come upon
started
that one?
we started seeing that all over the boutique market, and I think like the originator of it was a Collings guitar
Okay.
or Bill Collings himself. I don't know. I think someone on his team at the time um, had come up with that scheme, which it's like, well, duh, we do that for acoustic guitars. You know, you clear coat and then you wipe on the grain filler and then you put more clear coat to get a level surface. So they're like, why not paint and then put different color? So totally a cool concept, and it's a big eye catcher for sure. People love it.
Yeah. Well, that to me that was very striking, along with the bonding and
Yeah.
it's a very pretty thing, I think.
Well, thank you.
So let's go to you've got the three models. Kind of walk
Yeah.
me through what you got, and then what the differences between the three are.
Um, I think the way we've actually designed them is as if it's two models. You've got the Voyager
Right.
and then the Catalina, and then originally the Voyager was a solid body, and then we've created the Voyager Deluxe, which is its semi-hollow counterpart. And then the Catalina was designed originally as a semi-hollow only, but we actually recently just built our first solid Catalina, and I liked it a lot. I didn't know if I would, and it was a really incredible playing guitar. We put a client wanted telly pickups and a short telly bridge, and it sang. But going back to the Voyager model is an offset. It visually might occupy like a Jazzmaster type look,
Mm-hmm.
but physically it occupies more of the space of like a Stratocaster. So it will kind of sit on you and play more like it's a Strat than it does, I guess, a Jazzmaster, because of the size of the body. Now with the Catalina, my goal with that one was to do a Gibson, like an ES335 but
Mm-hmm.
take the body down, the 339, which is a smaller body, and then do a flat top version of that. So one of the symmetrical lower bout on the instrument, and then we designed the horns on both guitars to be fairly consistent, modified to match each body style, but they're both offset, and just to make branding more streamlined for people. People can see kind of the horn set and be like, oh, that's definitely a Jennings, you know. Um, and then as far as pickguards go, very similar across the board. Again, just to keep the branding honed in, because we're doing so many custom variations. We don't have like a set color or a set, I don't know, pickup or bridge combo. We felt it was very important to do consistency in the shapes of like the pickguard, the
Mm-hmm.
body, and things like that to make it more iconic and notable. But yeah, our body designs, we make all of our bodies an inch and I forgot the number. I know the decimal number. It's what is it? 1.63 is our body thickness. We do that to reduce some of the weight, and it makes it a little bit thinner, so it sits under your arm more comfortably, and helps balance out our guitars a lot. Our neck profiles, we're offering two right now. We have basically a thick and a thin, or a thick and a standard neck profile. The thick profile usually comes in at about, don't hold me to it, but about 90 thousandths at the first fret, and then roughly 92 at the 12th. So it's fairly even taper, maybe a little bit thicker at the 12th. And then with our standard neck profile, it's roughly 83 thousandths at the first fret, and then I want to say it goes up to like 85 or possibly 87 thousandths at the 12th fret. Okay. So, and then string spacing at the nut, inch 11/16, and then 25.5 inch scale on those guys.
Well, let me ask this: you are you producing your own necks?
Yeah, we make everything in house.
Okay.
Even most of our inlay.
I imagine the amount of your time is spent on the necks, probably then.
Yeah. The shaping. So we use CNC,
Mm-hmm.
for those who don't know, and we've dialed in the CNC really well to cut it out pretty close to what we want. But after that, we still do a lot of hand shaping. There's all these mill marks and stuff you got to even bandsaw off to get it out of what we call the guitar blank or the neck blank, and then sand it down to the neck itself. But yeah, we've really nailed down our sanding time on the necks. Like the back of the neck profile in rough sanding maybe takes us 20 minutes now. If you get a custom profile, obviously it costs more. You start with a bigger stock, and then I hone it down by hand usually. But yeah, but after that, that's just a rough sanding stage, and then you've got several more hours of fine sanding, and then after you're done fine sanding, you go to, fretting and finish prep and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, walk me through, because it seems these days it's either like a guy who's got a CNC or doesn't, and it's kind of like you got to the two different worlds in the guitar building. And there's obviously guys who are cutting this stuff and then sanding it down and spending a long amount of time trying to hand build. And then you've got the builders who are doing the CNC, which I think is great, because it saves a lot of time if you can invest in that technology.
Exactly.
Yeah. Kind of walk me through though the shop, and I know kind of visually, I'm trying to get a visual idea for our listeners, kind of what takes place and in your space, and how you came to that space, and maybe the story behind that.
Well, Jennings Guitars started at my parents' house in a shed that we had, a 14 by 14 shed, and then after I outgrew the shed, I built an elevated deck and put a carport, and actually on that elevated deck I put all of our machinery. I think the carport was like 10 by 17, and we got a big old bandsaw in there, table saw, chop saw, and router table, and sanders, and all sorts of stuff. And then I had these little spray booth sheds on the side we always joke, we're like, man, it looks like we're making drugs or something over there. but yeah, so we started there, and then 2014 we moved out to the shop that we're currently out, which is I don't know, I'd almost say it's fairly big for guitar making. It's 1,200 square feet.
Okay.
I got about 900 square feet of warehouse space where the machinery is, and then 2 offices up front. So the first office you come in is kind of a little bit of a showroom. It's not very big. It's like 10 by 10. We're able to display about 4 guitars there and have some like barnwood display things that I've made. I have a custom Benson Monarch amp in walnut. So we've kind of got white and gray tones in there, and then like maple, barnwood, and walnut tones in there. And yeah, people can sit down, demo there. And then back room in the office is our drafting room as well as our assembly room. We use that as our kind of clean room to keep some of the dust away from the finished instruments, because that's really important. Yeah, and then so you've come in the front door, right? And then you've hung a left and you've walked into the clean room, and now we're backing out of the clean room towards the front office. We're going to hang a left into the warehouse now. So as we're going into the warehouse, first thing we got on the left is going to be the spray booth. It's about 10 by 10. I can spray about 6 to 8. 8's pretty tight. Usually 6 is my happy spot, guitars at a time. And it's fully enclosed. And then if we keep walking, I got a carpeted bench that we actually store all of some of our tools, hand tools, and we have parts bins for the guitar. So guitar serial number 100 gets all these parts and has like a work order number in it and all those parts. And yeah, as we keep going, we've got the bandsaw on the right. We have a big one for doing resaw material if we need it. And then we've got a router table on the right side. And then we have a little table for our glue press. We have a glue press for gluing the veneers onto the tops of the semi-hollows, as well as we use that to glue our fretboards on. Okay. And then as we keep making our way down to the end of the warehouse, I have a fairly thin and long warehouse. We have our chop saw, and so we have this big bench, 8 foot long. In the middle is the chop saw, and it's kind of open-ended on each side, so you can slide like 12, 14-foot boards and chop them accordingly. And then also on this chop saw bench, there's about 8 feet long. There's on each end, there's 2 like 3 foot long downdraft sanding tables, which suck the dust out of the atmosphere and into a dust collector. So as you're hand sanding, it kind of collects some of that, which is amazing. Okay, so, and then to give you a better visual, the warehouse is kind of divided into 2 alleyways. So that was like the rightmost alleyway. So as we make the corner and start coming up the other, I guess, alleyway of the warehouse, we've got, big belt sanders for sanding sides. We've got in our nuts and different things that we do. Oscillating drum sander, for sanding sides as well, getting into those horns and stuff, those areas. And then at the very back, tucked up to the spray booth, is the CNC machine. And it's not very big. It's 2 foot by 3 foot. We can run 2 bodies at a time, and we just set it up to run 3 necks at a time. So kind of our ideal batch quantity is going to be 6 pieces. So 6 guitars coming out. But that doesn't always happen. A lot of it's onesie twosie as you get the custom orders and stuff like that. But yeah, that's roughly the shop lowdown, and then tons of tools. But yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. It's you and you've got a business partner. It's a 2-man shop, correct?
Not actually a business partner. Devin has been a buddy for a long time. He just works for me. I am the sole owner of Jennings Guitars.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So Devin saw what I was putting into it. He's like, I have no interest in putting all that energy and money, and he's like, no, thank you. And which that was great, because that's not what I was looking for either. But yeah.
So are you? It says, is it usually just you at the shop, and then like Devin there sometimes, or is he full there with you all the time as well? Or
Devin's here anywhere from 30 to 40 hours a week, so he's full time.
Okay.
Yeah, and we just keep plugging away. Devin focuses on a lot of the CAD work and prep to paint. I do a lot of the paint. Uh, I also fill kind of space in the shop with contract work, so building other brands of guitars as well, optimizing the CNC and paint booth. And I also do repair from time to time as people come in. We have a little bit of a local name for repair, so guys will come on in and doing, I don't know, anything from a restring to a neck reset. We can do it all here. And I've even custom CNC inlay replacements for guys who inlays have fallen out of their Les Pauls and stuff like that.
Nice,
So
nice. Well,
yeah,
tell me, you said location. You're in Ventura, right?
we are actually in Camarillo for those who know Southern California,
Okay.
but that is, I don't know, 10 minutes from Ventura. Um, we're definitely, I want to say 10 miles from the beach.
Nice.
And the beaches around Camarillo, they're not very, I guess, user friendly. They're fairly cold, windy, and rocky.
Okay.
But what's great about being here is it's very temperate, and the weather most of the year is between 60 and 70. In the summer, we'll get some hotter days, and the humidity, which is important for the wood, is usually around 50%, which is like spot on where you want it. So that's a big one.
So, and that's I'm trying to remember my geography here. I don't know a lot of the towns, but that is like in proximity to LA, just right outside of LA, correct?
Yeah, and probably nearest LA City is probably about 20-30 minutes on the freeway, no traffic.
Okay. Okay.
So, and it's so hard because LA is a city that kind of just keeps going. So it's like you're like, where does it end? Where does it start? You know. So
The Oh, it's on the north end of LA, kind of, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
the coastal north end. Yeah.
I don't know why I thought Ventura was like on the south end. I don't know the area very well.
Oh, you're all good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I see where that's
my
at.
wife and I live in Ventura, but it's like a 20-minute drive with traffic for me.
Okay.
Yes, we do have traffic in LA, or anywhere near LA. It's crazy, but it's all good.
So, um, let's talk about the business aspect here for a minute. I want to kind of get your
Yeah,
story on that. Um, so you're the figurehead for Jennings Guitars, and you're trying to run this as a business and also build. And
yeah,
I know that's got to be a lot of the boutique guitar builders are wearing many hats, and
yeah.
it can be a bit overwhelming at times. What kind
Oh
of
yeah.
what are some of the, as far as your story, some of the joys, some of the challenges, kind of in your journey and how that's developed, along the way, and kind of what you've done as a guitar builder.
Wow, that's a big question.
Loaded, huh?
I might have you reiterate parts back to me so I don't get too far off topic, but um, I guess we'll start with joys. First off, for me, it's a joy to work with wood. I love being creative and building things and developing things, and um, yeah, I love being dusty and all that stuff. So that's a win-win for me. I love building guitars that excite people and inspire people. That's a big thing. I think one of the bigger industries that I've tried to, I don't know if say place a hand in or whatnot, is the praise and worship industry. Being raised in the church, I definitely would love to support worship leaders the best that I can. So there's that in there, but yeah, I love building. I love seeing the people excited, like I said, and this is pride in kind of building your own stuff and seeing it out there and seeing photos of people playing it or videos and stuff like that. So um, I think a lot of people at this point kind of expect like, oh, who's your go-to players? And I wouldn't say I have any like hugely notable players. Different guys around town that are part of different circles. Some guys in Nashville that are even a part of like the Bethel circle, but a few pop artists, their session players play our guitars and stuff like that. But yeah, there's so much more. I just can't think of it right now.
Sure. Well,
But
that
yeah,
that kind of dials into, we were talking earlier about kind of different players in mind when you're developing a guitar. Kind of what do you
yeah,
envision that player being like, and kind of what's your target market, right?
totally. Uh, I I would say I've set my target market a little bit general. Again, I think I would love to hit the worship artists, but specifically, but they're so broad in what they want. Some guys want to play Les Paul, and other guys want Tellys, and some guys want Veritas, and others want who knows what custom guitar. So that's fairly open ended. So I've kind of targeted a little bit of everyone. I wouldn't say our guitars are metal by any means, but although they do crank out great metal tones, but I think everyone from country could play our stuff to pop. Like I said, we have several pop artists actually playing our stuff on tour with whoever they're on tour with, and then definitely over the years, a lot of praise and worship guys have bought them and loved them, and just find them to be super transparent. Um, yeah, rock guys love them. I don't know. It's like the guitars, you can make them do whatever you want, but I think at the same time, like a lot of times we want our aesthetics kind of choose what and how we play, as weird as that is. Like a guitar should be based off of musicality and playability and then aesthetics, but so often than not in this day and age, it's like aesthetics and then musicality and playability. So
Yeah.
you kind of take that into mind when you're designing your demographic of who you're going to sell to. But yeah,
Well, what it maybe, without maybe you getting too far into it, like maybe some of the challenges along the way and what you've learned from it.
um, I think the hardest challenge is, I don't know if I'd say hardest. I think one that I'm wrestling with currently is wearing so many hats, is getting things done on a time schedule that I ideally want and is best for the customer. You definitely work on so many things. Sometimes it starts to slow you down, or like I need parts ordered for the repair, but like 1 week is custom orders, so the repair gets pushed back. And like I've tried to do days where I do like, okay, I'm gonna do a little bit of repair, a little bit of contract, a little bit of Jennings stuff all on the same day, and it's a headache, and then you get phone calls of custom orders or repairs, and you got to answer business emails and stuff that you don't want to do, but it's part of the beast. So
Right.
there's
Right.
there's a lot of that. Getting parts ordered and getting expectations met is very trying, and the answer is to ultimately simplify, but I'm not at a stage yet where I can par away certain avenues of business. I still need to bring on different areas. So yeah, that's one. Other difficulties is working for yourself, working long hours, and being diligent, but working right and working smart. Keeping your head clear even though you're tired sometimes. That can be a royal challenge. And then out of that, also learning when to stop. Before you make those more mistakes that cause you more wasted time.
Totally.
So
Yeah, and I can see, like, I think in anything, like, there gets to a point where your dad, like, you're doing something and sometimes it's a learning process, and like you get so frustrated that you just, if you step away from it for about 30 minutes and do something else, sometimes you can come back with a clear head and attack those
yeah,
problems like head on, and they're not as hard, like, instead of like sitting there and continually plugging away at one thing.
yeah, and a lot of times you get it done faster.
Mm-hmm.
What took you 4 hours before, now it takes you 20 minutes. You're like, what? But
Yeah.
Other trials. I think finish has been about one of the hardest things. When you're doing the woodworking portion, like you can see where the errors are, and you can kind of sand away or manipulate the guitar to correct blemishes or imperfections. When you
Hmm.
paint, it's like, I don't know why, but flies and bugs are attracted to the smell of paint. Every time, if you got a bug in the booth and you lay on a coat, he's going right for it. And so, what's so hard about paint is you've only got one shot to do it right. And there's corrections you can make, but it's one shot and done. And it's like, man, it feels like you get little specks of stuff that you don't want in the finish, and like almost all the guitars. I know people probably don't want to hear that, but I spend time scraping them out, and people usually can't find them. It's usually only the painter and the maker that can see the small blemishes. But at the same time, I've heard plenty of luthiers say, like, yeah, what makes you a great luthier is your ability to hide your mistakes, because every guitar we make has them. So it's how good can you either omit them or hide them. So it's like the luthier's pride right there,
Yeah. Well, there's a from the boutique builders I've talked to. Um, there's a huge difference in handcrafting these things versus when you see like a mass-produced guitar that comes from like one of the
Yeah.
major retailers. Some of the expectations a player might have of, well, this has got to all look exactly the same and fit and finish. It is when you got
Yeah.
somebody who's building guitar, more of a custom guitar. Um, it's not the one is not going to be identical to the next one. I mean, you
Yeah.
want consistency, but it's not going to be identical because there's so much of a human factor in it.
Yeah. That's very true. But also at the same time, I feel like lately we've got the CNC, not only the CNC, but our sanding tolerances, because like I said, it's rough off the CNC, so sometimes we have to add more material off the CNCs to account for us sanding it down. But like, there's some guitars that come off. I was like, wait, was that the neck from that guitar or that guitar? And if it didn't have block inlays on this one versus the other one, I'm like, man, these things are spot on as far as like consistency and quality goes. And quality is not all about consistency or boutique. Variation is encouraged, but it's also exciting as a builder when you can hone in on your craft enough to make it much more consistent. Like the sanding lines around the headstock, the beveling of the fretboard itself, and the quality of the fret ends and the fretwork. And then like one thing that people I think overlook a lot is how the neck sits in the pocket. And then with that, basically you design the CNC to have a little bit of offset, so it's a touch too big, and then you sand it back down to the final tolerance. But you also have to sand it down enough to account for finish that you're going to put on it that's going to sit inside the neck pocket as well. So it takes a while to dial in those little things, and yeah, the results are very, I don't know, very pleasing, and I don't know, you take a lot of pride in what we do. So
Well, tell me a little bit about you. You had mentioned on I think it was Guitar Knobs podcast how you started bringing these guitars to NAMM and letting them sit at some of the pedal makers booths, and um,
yeah.
did that how did that affect the business, like as far as that kind of exposure at NAMM?
I would say that exactly is how it impacted it. It brought exposure. It brought a few sales in, but not direct sales. And I think just being a new brand, people, before you played our guitar with Co, it's like, I don't know what they feel like. And then after you feel them, you're like, oh my gosh. And then people start saving up and thinking about it. And then, I guess a spot opens up in their rig, and then they need an instrument, and then they come to you because they played your stuff and stuff like that. So that was the whole reason about for us to put the guitars at different pedal makers, just so people can get their hands on them and feel them. And this year we're coming out with a Telly style guitar. It's definitely Telly body, and it's going to be our, I don't even know what to call it, but more affordable guitar, but it's the same build quality, but we've just reduced some of the manufacturing processes to make it cheaper. So you get the same rolled fretboard, 9.5-inch radius, but we're going to do tellies and kind of put those out to a lot of the pedal guys this year, and still have a few customs out there, but it's just because we can build more of them, put them out, and people can still experience the brand. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, going back to you talking about producing these guitars, what is kind of the thought process on are you building guitars to meet demand of pre-orders? Are you building guitars to build up in stock? Kind of how's your approach there on your building?
we have three main things that we shoot for. First priority is stock order. So if someone custom order. So if someone orders a custom guitar, that's first priority. After that, we have kind of artist guitars, and the third category being stock guitars. So you got to build all three of those. But so you got to build enough stock to have, and then we also have to build enough guitars to either lend out to artists or have available for artists to borrow or even buy. Which the artist thing's difficult because you invest all your time and effort and money into building the instruments, and then they go out. You don't really see direct sales from those. Some artists do generate a lot of sales, but that's not always the case. Your brand building, it's slow. People have to. I've heard people say that you have to see a brand like 3 times before you like. I probably botched this saying, but like 3 times before you recognize it, and like even 10 times before you'd even consider buying it. So that's just the way it is. But yeah, it's kind of 3 things we build towards: artist, stock, and custom orders.
Okay. So the ones that you build that are stock orders, is that something that somebody can go buy one and one ships out, or is there a build time involved?
We do have stock available on our website and reverb.com,
Okay.
as well as a few retailers. So you can go those places to buy now. Custom orders usually take about 2 months. Could be a little bit longer depending on what we've got going on. And then with the Telly style guitar, I don't have an official name for it yet, but it's going to begin with a T. That guitar, our hope is to build stock and have that stock always available and be able to put them out. And yeah, that's the Telly's going to be $1,500 or $1,499 with a soft case. So
Okay.
yeah.
And when are you shooting for like a launch on that?
Man, an official launch, I'm really hoping it would be at the end of November, but we'll see how it lines up. Getting all the media lined up to do it well is difficult. We didn't know how to do it before, but I think we got a better plan this time. So we'll see if we can kind of launch the Telly. I really wanted to get a guitar that people have seen our guitars and are familiar with them, but I feel like the Telly is one of the most familiar guitars you can get to know and play. So my hope is kind of win people over with a great Telly at a really great price and kind of go from there.
Nice. Well, you've got that on the horizon. What's kind of your other what are some things on your horizon that you would like to see Jennings guitars do?
Oh man, I'm gonna say there's no timeline to these, but if we get dreaming, we've been talking about doing a Voyager bass for a while.
Nice.
And obviously we'd just balance out and elongate the Voyager to do what we can. Not sure what we'd do about a pickguard yet, but it wouldn't be too hard of a job to make that happen. Definitely get guys asking about basses. Nobody's been willing to put down money on one yet. I've done P basses in the past and jazz, but yeah. So that the Catalina does cover the ES335 itch in my opinion, but at the same time, it's like I still think it would be great to do a carved top, carved back, like really big bodied ES335 type guitar, um, with our own variation. Other than that, I do build acoustics. People don't usually know that, but I do build acoustics from time to time, and I love doing that. They're pricey and they take a lot of time and energy to get out, but I love building acoustics.
Yeah, what we were talking about before the show, kind of how you play in church a little, and it's
Yeah,
predominantly acoustic, right?
yeah.
So what are you kind of like your uh, what do you think? Where are you coming from as an acoustic player? What you're wanting and trying to create there?
As far as acoustics go, like I guess my background, I did like J high worship for a while, and then I played in big church at some smaller churches I've been to, like the main sanctuary. But where we're at currently, I don't have the time to practice to get up there. I want to. I told my wife, I'm like, Kelsey, I would get up there, but I gotta work back up. It's not hard to play, but you gotta get back into the practice of playing again. But as far as acoustic goes, I want to build a guitar that's super resonant but not overly noisy. And then anytime you build an acoustic guitar, the goal is to remove as much weight off the soundboard as you can while still maintaining the strength and structural rigidity. And that usually, if it's braced well and designed well, yields the most transparent tone. So one thing I do to increase the stiffness and reduce the weight is I add a dome shape to the top. So for instance, Martin and a lot of the acoustic companies, they all add like a 40-inch radius dome to the top of their acoustics. I've stepped mine up to a 35. You're like, it's not a whole lot, but you can actually start to see that curvature on the top a bit more. And maybe the Martins, their 48-inch radius, I can't remember at this point. But it allows me to run a thinner top and thinner braces and still have more strength, and your potential for the belly of the guitar coming up is much less when you do that. But yeah, creating a guitar that's open and inspiring to play is always the goal. Same thing with electrics and acoustics.
Is there a specific shape that you're a fan of, like D shape, triple O? Is there anything like that kind of is your go-to?
Yeah, my go-to right now, and it's the only one I have completely designed, um, is a small jumbo shape.
Okay.
So it's a bit smaller than a dreadnought. It's got deeper curves in the waist, and but I build them fairly deep, so you get some of that dreadnought voicing out of it. But it tightens up the bass, it tightens up the treble a little bit, and adds a lot of transparency coming out, which is primo for me. That's kind of what I shoot for. So I've always felt that the small jumbo shape really adds a lot of great, I almost want to call them like concert type tones. You go to like a single acoustic guitar player and what do you want? Like great transparency, tight bass, tight treble, a little bit of a bass scoop and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or a mid-range scoop, sorry.
Right. Versus like sometimes the smaller, really small body ones are real throaty, mid-rangey.
Yeah. Which works for certain things, but
Yeah. Just depends on the style of music and where you fit. Like, I think might be a discussion for another day. But P-dubbers who play acoustic, and see, I know a lot of P-dubbers who they don't touch acoustic. They're mainly electric players. But me personally, I'm predominantly an acoustic player, and there are things that I want out of an acoustic. If I don't get them, I'm gonna be grabbing another acoustic, or I'm always been trying out different electronics to make sure that I'm getting the best possible signal path, that I can.
yeah.
And there's things when you're leading that you want a good prominent bass and you want the highs to soar over everything, but you don't want something muddy.
Yeah, you need that separation, but you also don't want guitars that are like too bright or too synthetic sounding, which is a hard
Exactly.
thing when you're playing live, you know. So the pickups that I use in my guitars have been the LR bag systems.
Oh, I love
Um,
those. Yeah.
the Anthem is my favorite,
Mm-hmm.
which is the blend between the but what is it? Blend between the piezo and the undersaddle piezo and the microphone
Microphone.
inside the sound hole.
Mm-hmm.
The microphone sounds awesome, but you're able to dial in that piezo with like a blend pot and really get what you want out of it. So those have always worked well for me. Some other people swear by like K&K sound pickups or
Mm-hmm.
even certain Fishman pickups, but every time I've plugged a bag system into like a church PA, I'm just like, holy cow! It has all the dynamics you want, and gets rid of everything you don't. So
Yeah, I've really loved the way he builds his preamps. I think they're
yeah,
so just easy and foolproof and easy to plug and play.
yeah, I'm a fan. That's for sure.
So would that be would that be your go-to choice, you think, if you were to open up a line, or would electronics even be a concern and kind of let the buyer pick that?
Yeah, the way I do it right now is I build acoustic guitars, and if they want the bag system, I do the Anthem stick-in system typically, unless they have a tighter budget.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's least intrusive. I don't have to modify the instrument or put like a hole in the side of like a beautiful rosewood side, you know. So I've just found that that's the best thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
and the clients love them too.
Yeah, well, that totally makes sense. Well,
Yeah.
I I guess here in closing, if you would kind of tell our listeners kind of your best way to find Jennings guitars, how to maybe some of the dealers around the country that if they're in the area they could check out.
Yeah. Best place to find us is going to be Instagram, and we're Jennings Guitar Co. on Instagram. Our website, jenningsguitars.com. Catch us there. I tell people to call in. I'll talk to you. I'd love to talk to you. If you got questions or just excited about what you're seeing going on, give me a call. I'll be open ears the best that I can, despite being busy. Other than that, we got a few retailers. We have Music Store Live down in San Diego, and Pitbull Audio. They're doing both online and in-store sales. A lot of online from them. We have in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hopefully, I'm not getting that wrong. We have Barnett's Music Exchange. It's like a newer boutique type shop,
Mm-hmm.
but they're killing it. The stuff that keeps rolling in and out of that shop, I'm just like, dang. So they've got great stuff if you're in that area at all. We have a few more. We had a guitar in. Hate when you can't think of what the store's name. I guess in LA we've got Westwood Music. They've got a few of our guitars in there. Working on a few more in LA, and I'd love a few in Georgia and
Oh yeah,
Nashville. Yeah, those would be awesome.
yeah. I was thinking you'd come to the South.
Yeah, these guys would find their way home in the South.
Yes.
But yeah, there's a few more stores. I don't know why I can't think of them right now. But you can go online. We have our dealer list there. We just got a store in the UK, James Homatone, and yeah,
Well, awesome. Well, I'm excited that you came on the show and kind of
thanks for having me.
yeah. Um, I loved getting to talk to you and getting to get a feel for why you're doing what you're doing, and I think our listeners will enjoy getting to kind of hear your story and your
Totally.
musical journey, and So appreciate you coming on, and decided to get this one out so everybody could hear it. So thank you again, Chad.
Awesome, Clifton. Thank you so much.